Good morning, Digit fam. Adam Dowd here to round out another week of tech and tomfoolery, and a special hello to my new friends from the focus group I went to yesterday, many of whom were very interested in podcasts. Welcome, pull up a chair, buckle in, and enjoy the ride. It is June 28th, 2019, and this is your Digit Daily. The Lord giveth, and the Lord taketh away, and then the Lord giveth right back under much more favorable contractual terms. Okay, honestly, that's not usually how it works. But right on the heels of yesterday's news where Apple brought on Mike Filippo to design its processors going forward, news broke that Jony Ive was leaving Apple. That's right, R.I.P. Aluminium. Ive has been instrumental. Oh, thank God this pronoun game is over. Ive has been instrumental in the design of Apple products over the last decade or so as Chief Creative Officer, which, yes, is a thing. But now Ive is leaving the Cupertino mothership and founding his own new firm, LoveFrom, alongside Australian designer Mark Newson. Mark is spelled with a C, so you know he's a big deal. And now, don't you worry about Jony Ive. Those plucky startups can be tricky to get off the ground, but LoveFrom already has its first client. Apple. What? I've told the Financial Times that LoveFrom will continue to work on Apple's wearable tech and healthcare, so good for Johnny. He gets to go out and work on other projects while continuing his labor of love at Apple, and whoa there, not so fast. Because if this podcast had come out yesterday, that's the end of the story. But 24 hours or so gives us time to absorb and analyze, and that's where things turn decidedly less rosy. Reports suggest that Ive has been out of Apple for almost 4 years now. We certainly haven't seen him on stage or even doing a voiceover for a product video in the last couple of years at least. There's probably a more thorough reporter who has actually gone through and found his last voiceover, but I'm not them. Anyway, Mark Gurman of Bloomberg reported that Ive has only shown up at the Cupertino office about twice a week for some time now. According to Gurman in a tweet, quote, "I've had a saying, there are two ways of leaving Apple. The good way is you disappear and don't make press. The bad way is you make press. If you leave Apple and then build the Taj Mahal, we'll chop off your hands." So, holy crap. John Gruber from Daring Fireball was a little bit more salty/angry/nervous about this whole thing, saying that Jony Ive is out, period. End of sentence, have a nice day, don't let the door hit you in the red hydrogen one on the way out. Gruber points out that Ive was likely the driving force behind this thinness and minimalism that led to the latest butterfly keyboard nonsense. He also says that the post-Jobs era hasn't really been the Tim Cook era so much as it's been the Jony Ive era, and now that is over. Maybe for good, maybe for bad, but it is over. Since Steve Jobs, Apple has always had someone at the helm of design with good taste that made decisions on how a product launches and how it looks when it launches. But now, with Ive's departure, the design department VPs are now reporting to Chief Operating Officer Jeff Williams. Gruber finishes off his piece by saying, quote, "I don't worry that Apple is in trouble because Jony Ive is leaving. I worry that Apple is in trouble because he's not being replaced." So, in a farewell to Jony Ive, we'll play a compilation of Jony Ive saying aluminium, courtesy of YouTuber Wyatt Baldrich, link in the show notes.
Aluminium is naturally strong and lightweight. Raw aluminium of exceptional purity is first heated to a molten state. We believe this aluminium alloy, aluminium hinge.
Aluminium unibody enclosure, solid piece of aluminium, high grade aluminium, solid slab of aluminium, an aluminium.
We worked together for nearly 15 years, and he still laughed at the way I said aluminium.
There is no I in team, there is one in Ive, and there's only one in aluminum. But there is no I in the Roundup! Huawei's ban in the United States might not be so bad. Nikkei conducted a teardown of the Huawei P30 Pro to find out exactly how many components actually come from the United States. There are 1,631 components, and only 15 of them come from the US. No big deal, right? Well, those components include DRAM from Micron, communication semiconductors from Skyworks and Qorvo, and Gorilla Glass from Corning. So, as long as your phone doesn't need memory, communications, or glass, you're good to go. We talked about this last night on the Android Authority podcast, link in the show notes, but we are getting closer to the dream of wireless charging everywhere. Okay, that's overstating it a lot. A company called Ossia earned FCC approval for its tech, which transmits power over radio waves up to 1 meter away, which means you won't have to set your phone on a pad to charge, it'll just auto-charge while it's in your pocket. But it's approved for industrial uses only, not in the home, and it's limited to 1 watt of power. So it's limited to 1 meter at 1 watt of power and not in the home. We clearly have a long way to go here, but the headline says it best, one step closer. We'll get there, people, and it'll be awesome when we do. Twitter will begin hiding tweets that violate its policies from public figures. Trump! Excuse me. These tweets would be flagged by users, reviewed by company personnel, and if found to be in violation, they'd basically be grayed out with an option to click on the tweet to reveal it, kind of like a spoiler alert in Reddit. It's a half step, but coming from Twitter, it feels like miles of progress. Twitter has been reluctant to remove tweets from public figures, and I'm not just talking about the president here, okay? All public figures. Essentially giving them a free pass to say anything they want with no consequences. In other words, Twitter has treated these celebrities pretty much like the rest of the world treats them, so I'm not really sure why anyone was surprised. Jetson is not a cute cartoon about a family from the future. Today, it's a look at a much more scary future. Jetson is a device developed for the Pentagon that can identify a person up to 200 meters away by detecting the unique cardiac signature of the individual with lasers. Of course, how that technology will acquire a database of cardiac signatures is anyone's much more scary guess. But here we are in 2019, folks. Ain't it grand? And finally, yes, it is grand to live in 2019 because for the first time ever, renewables generated more electricity for the United States than coal. Renewables accounted for approximately 23% of our energy compared to 20% from coal. Of course, much of our energy dependence comes from natural gas, which has some of the same properties as coal and oil. There's only so much of it, and it's kind of hard to get. Wind, though, there's a lot of wind out there, but still, baby steps. We're making progress. So that is going to do it for today's Digit Daily. If you'd like to learn more about any of these stories, check out the links in the show notes and subscribe to our daily newsletter on Digit.com. And if you like what you heard, subscribe, leave a review, and don't forget to tell your friends about DigitDailyPod.com. Once again, I'm Adam Dowd, Dead Technology on Twitter, and we'll talk again on Monday.